Dr. Naylor provided me with a lot of interesting information, and I believe he did a very good job of highlighting many of the points that deal with science and globalization. However, I was convinced this wasn't the whole story. I believed that globalization had to encompass more economic component. So I met with instructor Jeff Davidson to further clarify the connection between globalization and economics.
When I think of the word globalization, from an economist standpoint, what we're talking about is moving towards a globalized economy where there are no trade restrictions between countries, between areas, maybe even a common currency in the future, right? Kind of a world market. And the reason why that's so important to economists is that anything that interferes with that system of prices communicating the value of the scarce resources to all the different levels of the economy can't be undertaken by anyone in particular. And here's another example. This is a 1 ounce silver coin that was recently minted by a group of people that are anti the current currency situation, right? So this has some symbology written on it, but ultimately if I asked you what is this coin worth, we could start with the idea that, well, it's an ounce of silver. So I can look up the spot price of silver and find out that it's trading for $35 on the market right now. And I can say, well, this has got to be worth $35. But then I've got, they had to pay an artist to come up with the designs on the coin. And so we've got to include some sort of return to his labor. What's that artist worth? Well, some might command a really high price for designing something really nice. Some might command a lower price. Maybe they don't have as much experience, right? But then the real question is, what is this worth to me? And I'm the only person in the world that can answer that, because I know it's worth $35 worth of silver, but what is all this extra stuff that they've put on here and the marketing that they've done to sell it, and they have to ship it out to get it to me. So the question is, what is this worth? Well, I'm the only one that knows that, right? It's impossible for you. You know that I paid $40 for it, but all we know for sure is that it's worth at least 40 and something more than that. So to try and illustrate the importance of the price mechanism in discovering what things are worth, and dealing with an unhampered market, an uninterfered with market, is the way that those prices can communicate all of the activity necessary to produce this good.
Are there any dangers to that? I mean, if I just let Mr. Bernanke run wild and do whatever he likes, are there not dangers to that? I mean,
absolutely.
Does he have my best interests at heart?
Think about what you're saying though. Fred Bernanke, that is something that limits our freedom. That is not something that increases our freedom. The Federal Reserve's control over the money supply and over the interest rates, that's not about freedom. That's not about unfettered markets. That's not about free markets. That's about controlled markets. That's about the government controlling and attempting to steer the economy. And that's a huge mistake. Everyone refers to America as this capitalist open market economy. And I'd argue that it's not. That what we're seeing there is not that. This fiat money that's produced and printed ad nauseum, that is not a free, open, unfettered market. And that is not what the basic axioms of trade and things in economics rely on. Free and open trade to elevate us to the free market radicals. They say, well, we don't really have an example of what free markets really are capable of, but we do have one. And if you think of the internet, well, in the internet there are no governments, right? There are no interferences into what you can do. Very few, at least. There's been attempts by governments to restrict what people do, and they radically fail every time. Now, if you think everything that's been produced on the internet is a result of people acting freely without control by anyone else, and look at the amazing things it's produced. Things that we couldn't even imagine would exist now take seconds to do, right? And that is largely the result of the interaction of a bunch of people all trying to mutually benefit through exchange and produce things, right? And so the idea of the internet really, to me, is the first example that we've had, or the closest example that we've had to something that is completely unfettered market process. You can come up with any idea you want, design an app, and put it for sale for 99 cents and see how many people buy it.
Having spoken with several professors here at the University of Lethbridge, I have certainly gained a sharper understanding of the word globalization. Its roots are deeply connected with history and the discovery that we live on a sphere. It has ties with science and technology. It is in fact driven in many ways by science and technology. I also learned that there is an economics component to globalization. But what I really took away from the making of this film, this project, was that globalization is not such a simple thing to define. It means many different things to many different people in a variety of disciplines. The one thing that stuck out the most, however, was that what globalization does is it provides us with choices. We have the choice to decide how we proceed into the future. And it's up to us to ensure that we go about globalization in a smart, ecological fashion. A fashion that will allow the benefits of globalization to reach people all across the world, while keeping in mind that we live on a planet with finite resources that must be sustained for future generations.